What does motherhood teach us about leadership?
How would you describe that role of mother?
Personal assistant, a personal nutritionist, personal chef, chauffeur, time manager, budget manager. In my case, with having only one child, you're not only a mom, but of course all mothers are, but your daughter's playmate. I'm Mackie's one and only friend at home. So it's just trying to manage the time between doing everything that you would do to take care of the house, but also understanding that when you send them off to their room, sending them off to be by themselves, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it just kind of changes that dynamic when there's only one child at home.
Welcome to Motherhood Advantage, the podcast exploring leadership intelligence developed through motherhood. For decades, we've heard about the motherhood penalty, but what about the motherhood advantage? In each episode, we talk with one extraordinary mother about how caregiving shapes the way they think, decide, and lead. Because motherhood is leadership.
Hello, I'm Dr. Laura Marie Rivera, and this is Motherhood Advantage. Today we have a very special guest who I have known since she was maybe 20. How old were you, Andrea?
I think I was about 20, 21. Yeah, it's been a while.
That's awesome. So we have a very special mom and chef from Pittsburgh, California. It's in the East Bay of San Francisco area. Andrea, welcome to Motherhood Advantage. And can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your motherhood journey?
Yeah, so I am mid-30s. I am a mom to one. I did not know what motherhood was until I became a mother. I have a great mom. I worked with you guys, so I got a chance to see your accomplishments and the way you mothered and my mother mothered, but I don't think that prepared me for this next chapter of my life. It was not what I had anticipated, but it's amazing. I love it, and I'm glad that I chose this path.
Me too. And, I think you're exactly right. And I know I definitely felt the same way. I was raised in a big family. I had babysit lots. My sister had kids, lots of people, but you just don't know until you know. And even with your wealth of experience, I think yes, you just don't know until you know. It's interesting being a mom. So how would you describe that role of mother? What do you think of when you think about it?
So I think personal assistant, personal nutritionist, personal chef, a chauffeur, time manager, budget manager. In my case, with having only one child, you're not only a mom, but of course, all mothers are, but your daughter's playmate. I'm Mackie's one and only friend at home. So it's, just trying to manage the time between doing everything that you would do to take care of the house, but also understanding that when you send them off to their room, sending them off to be by themselves, which there's nothing wrong with that, but it just kind of changes that dynamic when there's only one child at home. So there's many things, life coach, cheerleader, things I never thought I was going to be in my life. I am a great cheerleader nowadays. So just things that I had no idea it took to be a mother.
I could not agree more. There were all kinds of surprises and all kinds of jobs that I don't know that I had ever done before, but all of a sudden you are the expert and you are expected to do all of them. Were any of those tasks particularly surprising or fun or awful in your experience?
I always knew I wanted to support my children or my whatever, but I think that I never knew, which is kind of crazy because I had great examples of mothers, but I didn't know how much it took into being just that solid support and being consistent. Because there are some days where, of course, I'm proud of my daughter at all times, but there are some times where I am tested to see how loyal of a supporter I am. And some days it is harder to be that cheerleader than other days. Some days it's easy. You're doing amazing, you're doing great. And then other days, those are the true test of how patient can you be? How many times can you repeat yourself without sounding fake or keeping a fake smile and not pretending to be proud, but understanding that we're proud because we're trying. We're getting
Mhm,
there. It's just
mhm.
it
It's a lot. No truer words have been spoken. I love that you called out that solid support and that constancy that is required of mothers because it really is that 24/7 job. And like you said, how many times am I going to have to say this? How many times do I have to show up and be excited about whatever it is? And yes, of course, we're proud of you, but whew, that nonstop is really nonstop. And especially as you're saying, as the mom of one and that constant play date as well, it's a lot.
right.
It's a lot on a
Yeah.
mom. When you think of the role of a leader and the role of mothership, what kind of similarities or differences do you see, or have there been any crossovers or disconnects that you've noticed?
I think when it comes to being a leader and a mom, or you kind of are the leader of the household. I'm fortunate that I can be a stay-at-home mom, and so Brennan goes out and works, but I do have to be responsible for everything else in the house. And so when I was at the teaching kitchen at Google, I had my kitchen area. And me and the chef of that department would have inventory. We would have our stations in rotation. We would have our time checks, our temperature checks, all of that. And now I realize that I have a list that may have the same outline just with different things. So you when you go into the kitchen, you start with you turn on all of your lights, you turn on your ovens, you preheat this, and you take out your meat to temper that, and you do this. It's kind of the same thing in the morning. I turn off the alarm, I turn on the light, I wake Mackie up, I have her clothes laid out. And if I am meal prepping, I go temper the meat. So when I come home from dropping her off, the meat is at temp and I can cook it or it's marinated. So there's the same, very similar flow in working from a kitchen and kind of just managing a house and a child. The format is very similar.
I love that similarity and the lists and the physical list. Now I almost want a physical list. We talk about the mental load a lot, and there are a lot of lists running in my head, but I rarely have an actual list. And maybe that would be helpful. Maybe I could learn something from the kitchen world.
Yeah.
Who knew? I just want to go back a half a step because you said two things in there that I was thinking, Andrea, you started with kind of a leader in a home. And I would say you are 100% the leader of that home and doing all of those things. And I hope that you will claim that in your mind and in your conversation and in all of that. And you also said that Brendan goes and works. And just a reminder, all moms are working moms. And one of
You're
the things
right.
in our research we've gotten really good at is talking about paid work. Paid work is one thing, the paid workplace, all of that, but that doesn't mean that people outside of that paid space are not working. It just means they're not being paid.
Very true. So true. Yes.
Well, no, and we've had a couple of mothers shy away from that idea of leadership when in fact they're doing all of the things that the leaders in the paid workplace are doing, and yet they still don't claim it. And I just want to make sure you get credit for all of the things that you're doing.
You're right.
Um,
Thank you.
can you tell me, like, the kitchen was such an awesome example. Your job at Google, this was back in the days when we were still in California as well. And we got to see you take on that role a little bit in the beginning. And it seems like it was a pretty exciting place to work. And I also remember you took on a teaching role there too. How did that come about? And what did you think about that?
So I think, it's my my life path and everything. I don't know how it always ended up back in like a teaching position, motherly position, a caregiver's position. And that really was never my focus when I was choosing a career path. I remember when you approached me and asked, I can't remember his name at the moment, but you had asked him if there was anybody that would be willing. Was it Christopher Johnson? Something similar like that. He approached me and told me, this is what a family's looking for. Are you interested? And at first I was really scared. I was like, I don't know. I've never done anything like that. I had been a babysitter since I was like 13, 14. I had babysat. I have younger siblings, but gee, I don't know. And so I was still at, doing my culinary program and I joined you guys. And I remember when it was time to choose where I was going to do my internship. And I think I had talked to you or Tim about it. And I was like, oh, Google's on the list. And you guys were like, oh, you should go for it. That would be amazing. And I don't know exactly what it is that I put on my application for the internship. There must have been a couple of points of maybe what my experience was or something I'd be interested in. And so I got into the internships and I had three different cafes that I was going to do my internship at. One, I believe, was like a Mexican restaurant. The other one was kind of just like American food. And my last stop on the rotation was the teaching kitchen. And I just thought that is a really strange concept. That, okay, the teaching kitchen.
Tell the people that don't know about this teaching kitchen what it is, because we had never heard of it before. And once we heard about it, it sounded like the coolest perk ever.
It was really cool. And to be honest, I don't know if it's still a thing or if they've expanded on it. But the teaching kitchen at the Mountain View campus was, I believe, the flagship location. And I want to say that there have been other campuses that have also opened up teaching kitchens. The teaching kitchen was basically like a fishbowl. It was inside of a much bigger cafe. It was all glass doors, and inside there was like what you would think of going to a home ec classroom. And so, oh, maybe that's what it was. So I think maybe that's what I put on my application. I think I had put that I was a teacher's assistant for the home ec at City College. And so I think that that's why they gave me the opportunity to do the teaching kitchen at Google. And basically, it was like a home ec class for the Googlers. So whoever wanted to sign up, as long as you were a Googler, right? That was the perk that they had. You could sign up and take cooking classes, specialty classes. There would be different cookbook authors. I remember Aisha Curry came to the teaching kitchen, and these Googlers would sign up for the classes and they would learn what you would have learned in an econ class. Or they would also use the space as a team building. So they would come and their team would learn how to make sushi. Their team would learn how to pan sear chicken or steak, or there were a few different packages that they could choose from. But that is where I went for my third rotation, and the chef of that department offered me a position to stay on after my internship ended. And so I was there for a couple of years after my internship ended. I was hired on full time with Bon Appetit in the teaching kitchen at Google.
That is such a cool role. I remember when we were hearing about it and finding out about big companies have this thing. And that was a neat thing to hear. And I just have to share with all our new friends listening how we met, because when my family moved to San Francisco, we only had two children, but I was gigantically pregnant with the twins. We knew we needed some help, but we didn't know anybody in the city. And we were in a new home, new schools, new job, new everything. And I had the twins, and we sort of got connected with a few babysitters, a few things. Things weren't totally working out. And as it turns out, we even considered like the au pair route or something like that. But I was a stay-at-home mom and nursing two babies, and I didn't really need a baby person standing next to me while I was doing all of these things. I needed all of the things that, all of the other things that moms do in the home. I needed extra hands. And so we happened to be living down the street from that community college with its own culinary program. And they have this really cool lunch thing, and you can go in and you get this prefix meal all made by the students, and it was really good. And we were there, and as we were leaving, we were realizing, well, we could really use help with dinner and help with like little things. And so we approached that manager and we said, hey, do you know any students that might be looking for some part-time work or could help out a few times or a few hours a week? And we didn't know exactly what we were even asking for, but he said, I think I may have the right student for you. And then sure enough, we got connected by email, and that was the best decision we made in San Francisco. When you came to our home, like you said, you weren't totally sure. And boy, were those babies little. And, it can be intimidating when you have a little newborn or two little newborns. And
Oh,
you just
yeah.
came and you You helped with all the stuff, like, that could mean a trip to the store, that could mean walking the babies, it could be entertaining them so I could have a shower or a nap or something, but just having someone help with food preparation a couple nights a week, whatever it was such a great thing for a family, and especially for I was once again a new mom, and it was so brilliant, and I'm just so glad that we ended up connecting and that you took that role, because otherwise, I don't know how I would have ever met you. And even though we no longer live in the same state, it's nice to, see you online and see your journey as becoming a mother. And maybe now that I have you, we could even get your take on that famous roast chicken you used to make for us. And I've never roasted a chicken. I make chicken breasts, I make other things, but I don't know how to roast a chicken. And while this is not a cooking show, perhaps somebody else might like some tips as well.
Yeah, so I think the thing when it comes to roasting a whole chicken with like some root vegetables and everything is one of the biggest things that you want to do is you want to have your chicken out at room temp for a little bit so that the meat isn't cold when it goes into the oven. So if you temper your meat and you decide it's all about mise en place. It's all about getting yourself prepared before you even start. Kind of like waking up in the morning. Before you go and wake up your children, before I go wake up my daughter, I try to get myself ready so that way when she's ready, I'm ready. So if you prep everything before, you figure out if you're going to put your potatoes in at the same time of your chicken or you're going to put them in later. And that decides if you're going to do big chunks of potato or smaller pieces. Because if you're going to have whole potatoes or small potatoes, you can put them in with your chicken at the same time. If not, if you cut them too small and you roast the chicken and your vegetables at the same time, they will be really mushy because they'll be overcooked. So it's just about planning. It could be a dish that you could throw together, but you have to be mindful of the time. You know, if you're gonna put carrots in there and it's gonna be a dish that you just put in the oven and forget about, have big cuts of your carrot, right? Or think, okay, maybe if my carrots are a little bit smaller, I'll put the potatoes in and then slide my carrots in halfway through the cooking process. It's just about planning and just making sure that you have everything prepared and you have an idea and you set alarms because even though you're thinking, okay, I'll come back in 10 minutes and I'll check on it, you have a million other things on your mind. And so, one of the best things that I could have done is get one of those little Google speaker things in my kitchen and it just sets my timer. I have to call it out and set my timer and label what your timers are for because you're gonna have a timer going off. And was that a timer to turn off the TV? Was that a timer to check your food? Was that a timer to go pick up your kids? Was that a timer for the laundry? Label your timers, have everything ready, and have fun with the flavor profile of what you're trying to roast.
Love that, and especially the planning and preparation for a roast chicken or your children and all of those things together. Do you have a favorite flavor profile that you recommend with that roast chicken?
Well, I don't remember if you guys had a rosemary plant or we had a rosemary plant, or do you guys really just liked rosemary? Or maybe when we went on a walk, we collected rosemary. But rosemary is really fun, especially if you have a little one or you have a rosemary bush, for them to help with collecting it. You collect it from your garden or your neighbor's garden with permission, and you take it home and you wash it and you include it in the meal. I think anything that involves even just your neighbor down the street has a lemon tree, right? And you can go ask for a lemon and you incorporate that in your dish. I think just finding a way to make it a communal experience just makes the dish so much nicer.
You are so right. I forgot about that rosemary till you said it. And even here in Seattle, originally we were borrowing from a neighbor with a very big bush in the corner, and now we have it in our yard. But I am missing in our California yard, we did have that Meyer lemon tree. And if that's not
Yes,
the
that's
best
right.
thing ever.
Yes, I remember the boys were making lemonade all the time whenever there was enough lemons to
Yes, yes,
squeeze.
yes.
Yes. And I think we even used the
Yes,
Meyer
that's
lemon for the lemon blueberry ricotta pancakes.
yes, those were so
Think
delicious,
that was the trick
Andrea.
to those pancakes. I think it was Meyer lemon.
Yeah, I wish I could remember. I think we had them at some restaurant or something, and I said, "Ooh, hey, Andrea, could you try?" And Do you have any tips for that one? Because mine have never been as good.
I don't remember. I remember one of your boys. I remember making pancakes with one of the boys. They were saying that the best pancake was if you tried to shape it as an eclair. I don't know why that made me laugh. They said if you make a pancake the shape of an eclair, it makes the pancake taste better. So when
Who
I made the
knew?
pancake, I tried to make a couple of them. I mean, just oval. I don't know what what the thought process behind that was, but I guess maybe it's the shape that changes the pancake flavor.
I guess
Not
so.
100%. Yeah.
I don't remember that at all. I'll have to ask them. I don't know. But honestly, those pancakes are legendary and my family is still talking about those pancakes. So, I won't be offended that they like yours better than mine. That's what happens when you spend time with a professional chef, right?
Well, now you guys are gonna have a professional chef at home.
Yes,
Oh,
yes, yes, and I think about that a lot because, yes, my second is in culinary school right now, and really in the same spot of the journey where you were when we met, and is that coincidence? Is it related? I don't know, but I sure think it's neat,
that's
and
so fun.
yes, I don't know if he can roast a chicken like you can, but I bet he could do some pancakes. I should ask him about that.
Yeah. See if they can make pancakes. Yeah.
I like to ask our moms something special or specific about their kids. It could be like something they really love or something that they've really worked hard on or just something special. It doesn't have to be too personal, but about your daughter.
I think something very cool is that your second child did culinary and Mackie is a dancer. I don't even know how that came to be. I remember you would tell me some of the projects that you worked on. And I thought, oh my God, that's amazing. That's so cool. The pictures that you had. And I was just thinking, like, wow, it's so beautiful. It's an amazing skill, amazing talent. And now I look at Mackie and I just think the world is your oyster, right? And I think that that's one of the biggest reasons why I will be taking her, chauffeuring her around to dance practices and because I see the joy that it brought you, and I'm amazed that somehow, somewhere, I have the opportunity to continue to foster this love of dance for her, and I hope that it brings her as much joy as it brought you, because I just thought that that was such a beautiful part of you, right? I always admired that, and I get to experience my daughter doing these amazing things on stage and I just think how are you able to do that or just the passion to Mackie's 6.5 and we're at the dance studio 10 hours a week and she gets frustrated when it's time to leave. She does not want to leave the dance studio for as many different classes as we have put her in and the competitions sometimes are 10 hours a day for 2 days, every other weekend, and she is all smiles every morning to get back in there, and I just think that's amazing. And so I just think that I'm very lucky to be able to foster this love that she has, because I think that that's just such an amazing opportunity, amazing gift that she has, a talent, and it's so surreal.
That is really cool. And it's something we haven't talked about dance on this podcast yet. That is something that I used to do professionally in my theater days, in my before children days, and it's funny because, I mean, it was literally a lifetime ago, and my life is so, so different now, but that really was a fun time, and I think about back when I was a kid and just all of the things. Of course, my mom was always there driving us to all of these things, sitting and watching these performance, and of course, paying for all of these things, and it really is that commitment. Earlier, you were talking about that support and that consistency, and yeah, when your child has an interest or a passion, a skill, like, you really do, whether that's baseball, ballet, or anything else, but I have loved watching your daughter dancing, performing, and she is just such a beautiful thing up there, and it's really fun watching you do that, and I didn't even think about it as something different than what you do, just this beautiful little girl doing her thing up on the stage. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you.
You do have a gorgeous little girl, and as a mother of my own, I would know.
Oh.
Right, right. One of the other things I ask in this, when we're talking about the paid workplace, and have you seen, because right now you are working full time in the home as opposed to a paid workplace. And I was wondering if in your time in the kitchens or anywhere, if you've seen any kind of opportunity where employers have made a space or an accommodation or helped mothers continue to work, or if you've noticed a way that employers could help their mothers to work. Have you seen anything that worked or didn't work?
Yeah, I think where there's a will and there's a way. And one of the really cool things that Google offered their employees, unfortunately, Bon Appetit, we were contractors, so we didn't get all the Google perks. But one of the perks that the Google workplace had was they did have childcare offered. And so it was something that if you were a Google employee, you can go back to work and have the childcare. And I think that if more companies took on that idea of our moms were our assets and we want them to continue growing, I think offering some sort of support in the early years can help new moms back into the workforce, back into their career of choice. Because that was the most challenging part, I think, of becoming a mom was what do I do now? And, okay, well, I can get a babysitter or a nanny, but then essentially I'm going back to work to pay for somebody else to then do. So I think Google was very forward thinking in their approach in offering their employees childcare, free childcare. I think it was very helpful. And I think if more companies took on being able to partner with the nursery or partner with the daycare if their space doesn't have it, it just would show how much their employees are appreciated. I think that some employees just think, well, when a mom leaves for maternity leave, she'll come back. And if not, we'll hire someone else. But instead, why not just make it possible so that mother can come back? Because she's going to have the knowledge. She's going to have much more experience now becoming a mom and having to juggle so many more things. Why not help continue to grow the idea that moms can go back to the workforce? They are assets. They are part of that community. They are welcome. And I just think that if more companies had that opportunity, it would be a beautiful thing.
Could not agree more. What a beautiful thing that would be. And you said it, not just supporting moms, recognizing and appreciating mothers as an asset in your workplace. And that is our thesis here at Motherhood Advantage. And I love that that is kind of organically where you went. Thank you for that. And is there anything else you'd like to share about motherhood journey, paid workplace, being a chef, being a mom dance chauffeur?
I just think that I'm very blessed to have been able to have this opportunity. And again, I don't know where I'll be in a couple years, but I'm sure that I will be continuing making my lists, continuing to manage my time, Mackenzie's time, Brendan's time, because it's just something that just does not stop. It's just something you just get better at. And sometimes you get so good you don't even realize you're doing it anymore. So it's just you just keep
Yes,
going.
yes. Yes, yes. You get so good at it, you don't even realize. And thank you so much. This is Andria Armas Harris from California, and that is your motherhood advantage.
Motherhood Advantage is based on the idea that if mothers are trusted to nurture, protect, and shape the next generation, their expertise should be recognized everywhere leadership matters. These episodes build on the work of Intuitionship, a groundbreaking research study with nearly 1,000 mothers, and now a nonprofit continuing to explore that intersection of motherhood and leadership. If you'd like to learn more, make a donation, or recommend a remarkable mother, please visit us at motherhoodadvantage.com. This podcast is hosted by Dr. Laura Marie Rivera and edited by Liz Aderhold, and is dedicated to all of the mothers who keep the world running, because motherhood may just be the most powerful leadership training ground in the world.